Evening, everybody. We're here talking about fall fare, cooking with essential oils. Yes, you can cook with those. And I'll give you some tips and tricks to, to just kind of spice up your cooking. This is a great way to experiment with new flavors. So, something that you may not have in your spice cabinet, or something that's kind of hard to come by, like coriander or cardamom, things like that. You can use, you can get your oil and you can use it for so many different things. There's so many great diffuser recipes that I've seen that use cardamom and things like that, for example. But you can also use them in cooking. So I will make a disclaimer here. When we're talking about cooking or ingesting essential oils with Young Living, we're only discussing the Vitality line. So every time I mention cooking with an essential oil, it will be in reference to the Vitality oil, okay? So with that in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and start my screen sharing. I do have some slides for you guys. So let's see, there it is. So I'm gonna be sharing some recipes with y'all, and some of these are actual recipes, and some of them are just ways to tweak your favorite recipe that you use for that particular dish. So today we're gonna talk about our Thanksgiving dinner. Of course, Thanksgiving's coming up, and those of us who like to cook or maybe cooking for the first time or cooking for a lot of people, especially for the first time, might be a little nervous about how things are going. But have no fear. With these simple little tricks, you'll be just fine. And you'll actually put out one of the most beautiful tables you've ever seen. So, if you think essential oils are just for aromatic or topical purposes, think again. Again, you can cook with Young Living's Vitality line. You can go from home cook to culinary artist. At least you can go to a little bit better than just home cook. And these mouthwatering recipes will have your family and guests coming back again and again until you're all passed out on the couch. Maybe need some Diet after that. Who knows? So a little bit of getting started. This is just some tips of cooking with essential oils. A small amount is going to be more than enough, okay? Remember, these are extremely potent and very concentrated, so you only need a teeny tiny bit. You can use essential oils in substitution of your fresh herbs, your citrus zest and juice, unless you're needing the citric acid in the meat of the juice. Then you don't use the essential oil because it does not have the acid in it. It doesn't have the acid component. But if you're just using the zest or for the flavor, the essential oil, the citrus oils will be perfect for that. You can also use them in place of any of your dry spices in your cabinet, like oregano, lime juice, or even ground clove. Again, these are extremely potent. So we recommend the toothpick method. So basically, you're going to open up your essential oil. There's an orifice reducer in the top. You just stick your toothpick through the middle part of that orifice reducer and, give it just a minute to absorb some of the oil. And then you swirl the toothpick through your wet ingredients or your oily ingredients. So if you have a dish that separates out your oils from just your plain water-based wet, swirl it in the oil-based because the oil base of your dish will actually leach that essential oil out of the toothpick a lot easier than the water will. If you're going to actually drop the oils, use only 1 or 2 drops at most to start off with, okay? I really honestly recommend the toothpick method until you have done it at least once. So about 4 or 5 toothpick swirls, when you charge a toothpick and swirl, when you do that about 4 or 5 times, that's about the equivalent of a drop. But make sure you're tasting as you go if you can, okay? That way you don't over season. You can always add more. You can't always take it away, okay? General rule of thumb is you need to add the oils at the end of your cooking process just so you don't cook out the flavor totally, and you also receive the helpful benefits. Now, sometimes that's not possible, so you can always add a little bit more at the end of your cooking. The key is just really, it's a trial and error just like a lot of things in science, this is a science and a little bit of experimentation, but also knowledge, knowing what you're doing, or, well, knowing your essential oils. So always read your label before you create your dishes, okay? So we're talking about cooking smarter, not harder, okay? So cooking the restaurant quality dishes can be totally time consuming and extremely expensive, but it really doesn't have to be. Using essential oils can be a very cost effective way to have restaurant flavors with, you know, your home budget. So you can replace hard to find ingredients with a vitality oil like coriander. That's a really good example, by the way. Get the most bang for your buck. You only need a tiny amount. And you can recreate or concoct so many different recipes with just one bottle. So it's really awesome. You can spend less time cooking and more time savoring because you don't have to worry about your prep time and like washing, chopping, slicing. And you can just be ready to savor your fresh flavor with each use. Your dried herbs and spices quickly go stale, while your vitality oils are going to still retain their flavor no matter what. So have you ever made a dish that calls for like a single sprig of rosemary or thyme or something like that, but the grocery store only sells a huge bunch and you don't exactly have a bush outside to go cut it off of? So using the essential oils can totally cut back on your waste as well. All right, so now we get into the good stuff, the warm up. All right, so when your guests come in, you want to greet them with a nice, warm scented home because remember, scent is the best way to get to that emotional center of your brain. Think of all the perfect times you've walked into a home and just felt wrapped in warmth and felt like you were home amongst friends and family. Most of the time, you're smelling something spicy or cooking. I always think of Christmas and Thanksgiving. And big scents during those times of the year are cinnamon and clove and things of that nature. So this is a great way to scent your home and bring your guests a really, really nice appetizer to kind of whet their appetite. Okay. So you can give them a nice fall sampler platter with cheese, nuts, and a little bit of dried fruit and wash it down, maybe some festive Wassail Punch. You can check Pinterest for some ideas for cheese platters if you really want to go that route. Or you can even just go to Whole Foods or Sprouts and just tell them, hey, I need a cheese platter and this is kind of what I want. And they can throw that together for you. You're going to pay for it. But that, you know what, that's probably what I would do. It's a little bit easier to go have someone else do it because I don't know cheese that well. I love it, but I don't know it. Okay. So this is a really great recipe for Wassail Punch. You can actually find this on Young Living's blog. It's really, really simple. You basically just throw everything together and let it simmer in a pot on your stove. And the greatest part about this is you can let it sit on your burner and it will scent your home like potpourri without the toxins. And hey, you've got a great drink to go along with it. So there you go. You do have some must-have ingredients and some optional ingredients. Personally, I'm going to throw a little bit of everything in my Wassail Punch when I make it, unless they're out of the sleek tea bags. I really hope those are in stock. Okay, so now on to the big show. We all know the turkey is a centerpiece of any table at Thanksgiving, okay? So we're not going to be like the Griswolds on their family Christmas where the turkey's dry, right? We want to do this the right way. Yeah, I went there. Totally went there. Okay. So don't beat yourself up. This is not going to be that hard. We're going to give your turkey a little bit of a boost so it totally measures up to the strictest of critics, okay? So you're going to infuse the flavor of your turkey with vitality oils during the brining process, okay? This is, while it is thawing, you brine it in a salt and water mixture, right? Okay. So that way it tenderizes the meat and it also seasons the meat because you don't really season the meat while it's cooking when you're doing a turkey. So this is a really good time to infuse the meat with that flavor. This is one of those examples where we're going to add the vitality oils before we actually cook the dish. So some suggestions that you might look at are thyme, rosemary, sage. You can throw a citrus in there like orange, lemon, or bergamot. Black pepper is always a staple. And you can even try something spicy like thieves or cinnamon or clove. When you're brining your turkey, be sure to use stainless steel or glass. In a pinch, you could probably use cast iron, but you should really, really stick to stainless steel or glass, okay? All right, so the next part, gravy. What turkey is complete without gravy? All right, so this is a really lovely recipe that a friend of mine shared with me, and it is amazing. I've totally had this, and it's so good. Okay, so we don't like giblet turkey or giblet gravy, so we put our giblets in the cheesecloth and just let it simmer through the gravy bits, and then we take it out and toss it in the trash when we're done. So, but you can totally flavor your gravy with the essential oils that you use to flavor your turkey with. You want to keep a consistency of flavor here. So whatever you seasoned your turkey with, especially if it's a spice, maybe not the citrus, but the spice especially, you probably want to go ahead and put at least a little bit of that in your gravy. Here's a really great time to use the toothpick swirl method. When you're doing your turkey, you got a large turkey, a large butt of water. You can kind of go a little heavy on the oils at that point. I think I put 5 to 10 drops or so. This one you definitely want to stick with the toothpick method here. Some suggestions would be black pepper, thieves, sage, lemon. Like I said, whatever you use with your turkey, you want to kind of keep that consistency of flavor with your gravy. Okay, so now your side stages. The sides of all traditional Thanksgiving meals are generally full of the fall favorites like yams, green beans, squash, potatoes, but they gotta be complementary to that wonderful turkey, okay? But you don't want them to upstage the turkey. It's kind of like a bride and bridesmaids. The bridesmaids are there to compliment the bride, not upstage her. So we're not gonna upstage the turkey, but we're gonna compliment it very well. Okay, so of course you got your dressing. You can't have turkey and gravy at Thanksgiving without dressing or stuffing, however you want to designate it. So whether you decide to cook this inside the turkey or you cook it from scratch or, start with a box of Jiffy mix, it's totally up to you however you want to do this. But when you're preparing, you can add any of the vitality oils to kick up the flavor. So when you're doing this, when you're adding the vitality oils, of course, at the end of the cooking stage with your dressing, you break it up usually, and then you add some of the turkey juice to it to get it nice and moist, right? That's when you want to add your vitality oils. So add your juice from your turkey, get it nice and moist, taste, and then start adding, depending on the size of your pan, you might want to do the toothpick or you might want to do 1 drop at a time, okay? In this one, you could probably do 1 drop, mix it up, and then taste. If you're not really sure what you want to add, you don't really know if you want to add this oil or that oil to a dish, you can take the oil and hold it under your nose and then lean over your dish and waft all the scents towards you at the same time. Now I'm going to kind of show you, I'm going to stop the screen sharing for just a minute and kind of show you an example. So you're going to hold your oil. Let me grab one. Here we go. Haha. So you hold your oil in your hand without the lid. You kind of hold it up like this, and you just waft the flavors of your dish and the oil together towards your face, towards your nose, so you can get that scent in your nose. If it's in your nose, it's going to be on your palate, okay? Most of our tastes are actually through our nose, believe it or not. So once you do that, you can kind of gauge as to, the concentration of that flavor that you want or that spice that you want in your dish. And you can also gauge whether you actually want that in your dish or not. Because sometimes it just doesn't go. Like, oh, I want to put thyme in this. Oh, wait, thyme doesn't really go with that. You never know until you try it. And a good way to do that without ruining the entire dish is to just waft your flavors. You could also pull a little bit aside and add a little bit to that as well and try to taste it that way. That's also another idea. Okay, so we're going to go back to our screen sharing again. Okay. So some of the examples you can use for your dressing are celery seeds, sage, thyme, black pepper. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Again, toothpick method, or one drop at a time. Take them aside, all those kinds of things. All right, so next on our list is our sweet potato casserole, because who doesn't love a little bit of sweet potato casserole? This is actually one of my favorite dishes. I never have been the biggest fan of putting a bunch of marshmallows on top of my sweet potato casserole. If you want marshmallows on yours, go for it. This is the recipe that I use, and we actually use a crumble. If you see, it's brown sugar, flour, butter. It kind of makes this little granola-like crumble, and we just put it on the top and bake it up, and it's really lovely. This is another one of those. You're going to add your vitality oils before you cook the dish. So we're going to put that in with the actual potatoes and with the main portion. So a couple of that you could use. Now, I don't know about you, but I adore cinnamon bark, clove, ginger, nutmeg, all these flavors with my sweet potatoes, because I just think it really brings out that flavor of fall and really just pulls everything together, in my opinion. So you could totally put those in there, 1 or 2 drops, mix it up, kind of get a little bit of a taste of it, or scent, things like that. If you're going to be tasting it, add your vitality oils before you add your eggs. We don't want to get salmonella over Thanksgiving. That would not be fun. Okay. So this one actually got put on 2 different slides because I have a lot of ingredients. So there's your slide with your actual instructions. And see, I did say combine all ingredients except eggs. Okay. So when you're done adding your vitality oils, you have everything flavored like you want. Throw your eggs in, beat them up until, stir everything until it's well combined. Throw into your greased casserole dish, sprinkle with your crumble and bake it up, and you're good to go. You could add your vitality oils to your crumble, but you got to be careful because that has to be the right consistency to actually crumble and bake properly. Okay, now I don't know about you, but I am a sucker for some green bean casserole. I love green beans, and I love those French fried onions. I know those are terrible for you, but I just love those. They're just so yummy. So this is actually the recipe from the back of the box of the French fried onions. So you can use any recipe you like. This is the one I grabbed because this is the one I use. Mushroom soup. And as far as the green beans, you can use fresh green beans or you can use canned green beans. That is totally up to you, however you want to do it. And go with it. Add your vitality oils in with the mushroom soup because that's going to be a little bit thicker, a little bit more oily, and definitely wetter than everything else that you've got on here. Couple of ideas: you could do black pepper, sage, or tarragon even. That would be a really yummy one in there. And then when I do the fried onions, I usually have like 2 containers of this. I put 1/3 cup into, stir it in like the recipe says. And then I just sprinkle however much I want on the top when it's done. And I usually have about 1 inch or so of actual just onions on top of my casserole. So you top it however you want. But those are some ways to knock up your green bean casserole just a little notch higher on that culinary list. Okay, so a little complementary sweetness. With all of these savory dishes we just threw on our table, you got to have something to balance it out, right? Okay, so it also helps to have that lovely burst of color that comes from a dish of cranberry sauce. All right, of course, we can't have Thanksgiving dinner without the cranberry sauce. I have been told this a couple of times by my husband, and the first time I ever made Thanksgiving dinner for us at home, I was actually reprimanded for not having the cranberry sauce. I never ate it. I really didn't like the jelly, that jelly stuff you get in the can. I never was a big fan of that. And so I just didn't get it. And I didn't know how to make cranberry sauce at the time from actual cranberries. So I just didn't get it. Well, I got reprimanded and sent back to the store to go get some. So, but now it's a staple on our table as well. So when you're making this cranberry sauce, why not cut back on some ingredients without sacrificing your flavor, okay? This is a really perfect opportunity to do a little bit of experimentation with your flavors as well, because you can do a lot of things with cranberry sauce. Okay, so you can use any kind of recipe you want. If you want to go with the canned cranberry sauce, that's great. If that's what you guys love, wonderful. If you actually make your own cranberry sauce from the cranberries by reducing them down, that's awesome too. Okay, so one way to knock up the flavor of cranberry sauce to that next level is adding a little bit of citrus zest or a little bit of citrus juice. You can totally do this by adding the corresponding vitality oil. For example, like orange zest, you can substitute for a drop of orange vitality. You save on a grocery bill, or if you forgot the orange, like I do, like almost every year, you don't have to go back to the store. You just grab your orange oil, put a drop, and let it go. If you do get the stuff in a can, you can do it one of two ways. You can chop it up real good, put a drop of your oil in there, mix it up real good, and go with that. Or if they just absolutely insist on having it sliced, before you slice it, take your orange oil on a, well, you can put a drop, but take a toothpick or a silicone basting brush and just brush it over the whole roll, and then chop. And you got a little bit of extra flavor there. You can even try using lemon or tangerine, or maybe a touch of black pepper or marjoram. That's a really great way to balance out that real heavy sweet and tart with just a little bit of spice, and adds just a little bit of depth of flavor. All right, so what is any meal without the carbs, right? I know, carbs are the enemy. Sorry, I gotta have my dinner rolls. So most of us are watching our carb intake, so this recipe takes that into consideration actually. So this is a recipe of dinner rolls made with einkorn flour. This is made from absolutely non-GMO original wheat, been organically grown and stone milled. All you have to do, if you don't like this recipe, you can take any recipe that you already have and already love and just substitute the einkorn flour for all-purpose flour in your favorite recipes. You substitute it at a 1-to-1 ratio and you're good to go. So here's the recipe I've used in the past. A couple of packages of yeast, warm water, egg, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the einkorn flour does take a little bit longer to soak in the moisture from when you're mixing it all in together. Just give it a little bit longer. Add your flour slowly, okay? Make sure it takes up all the moisture, or make sure it's completely moist before you add more. You can actually over add with the einkorn flour. I've actually found that a lot of times I actually end up using less flour with the einkorn than I do with regular flour. This is a great recipe, and I'll be happy to email these to you guys. You don't have to worry about writing them all down. And then, of course, the pièce de résistance, the dessert. The perfect end to a perfect meal, all right? After you've engorged on that lovely meal, you gotta have a little something sweet to just top it off with, right? Right. Pumpkin pie is generally your go-to staple for a Thanksgiving meal, of course. So you can totally use cinnamon bark, clove, ginger, nutmeg, or even the thieves vitality instead of your dry spices. You get all the flavors while maintaining that beautiful orange color. I don't know about you, but I am really bad I like a nice spicy pumpkin pie, but every time I get the flavor right, my pie ends up brown because I've added so much dry seasoning to it, and I actually have to rebalance the moisture of it as well. So I started using the vitality oils before baking. This is one of those times we use it before cooking, I know. But you put the oils in the pie, mix it around, give it a little taste. You still get all the flavor, and you maintain that beautiful orange pumpkin color. How wonderful is that? I think it's beautiful. And it's a lovely addition to your table. Or you could even go with apple pie. Apples are very much in season this time of year. And, everybody likes to see the cinnamon flecks in the apple pie. I get it. So add your cinnamon to your apple pie. But why not also add a little bit of your cinnamon vitality? That'll kick that cinnamon flavor up, but just a little notch higher to where it's just really, really just so complimentary to those tart apples. And you don't have to worry about adding more sweet. Okay? So these are just some ways to pop your dishes just a little bit more. So if you want a few more ideas, you can always visit Young Living's blog at youngliving.com/blog. And, you know, Pinterest is always a good one for more ideas. But like I said, you can switch out any dry spice for a vitality oil if we have it. No, we don't have garlic oil. I got asked that recently. Sorry, but you can use whole clove garlic if you wanted to do that. But any of your spices that you have in your spice cabinet, you can switch out for a vitality oil as long as we have it in the line. So be sure to visit youngliving.com and check out the dietary supplements and just go wild. So now you know how to cook with the oils. And I mean, so many people are so scared to do that, but it's really, really simple. See, I just showed you how simple it is. So now I know you want some, right? Everybody's got to have some of these oils. There's two ways you can get it. You can go retail or wholesale. Retail, there's no kit required. You will pay 24% more, and you don't have, there's some perks that you don't really, that you won't be eligible for. Or you could go wholesale, which you get to choose from one of 3 premium starter kits. You can save up to 49% off retail, and you'll be eligible for our Essential Rewards program. Free shipping, well, I shouldn't say free shipping, but reduced shipping, and you can buy credits and even order a package. It doesn't matter how much you order, if you get the credits, everything ships for 1 credit on an order. So, wow, that's amazing. And only 150 PV order per year is required to keep your wholesale membership. So that's a pretty good deal. Whoops, there we are. So here's the starter kits that you have to choose from. Your everyday oils, which is you get 11 oils and a diffuser, plus a few extra shareable things there. So that's one way you could go. Or you could go with the Ningxia Red kit, which is a lot of Ningxia Red, which is amazing. There's one oil, you get stress away on that one, but no diffuser. Or you could go with the Thieves kit, which again is amazing because Thieves is just the bomb diggity dong. So I just can't think of anything better than Thieves. You do get a couple of oils with this. Again, no diffuser, but you do get a lot of Thieves things. So any starter kit you go with is going to be totally awesome. And I would kind of be not the nicest person in the world if I didn't tell everybody about this. Let me move that out of the way. There we are. So I would just want to make sure that you all know what opportunities exist with Young Living. You can simply enjoy the wellness benefits of the many quality products Young Living has to offer. So you can just be a user. Hey, no problems there. Everybody needs these. You can earn your product for free with Essential Rewards and earn up to 25% back on free product, plus your 24% off retail as a wholesale member, and which means you're essentially getting 49% off of retail. So that's a pretty good deal. That's almost half, dude. Or you can even earn an extra 50, 100, 500, 1,000 or more in your pocket every month. So just think, it's getting pretty close to Christmas. Black Friday is just around the corner. How much would $100 help you out on Black Friday? About an extra $500. Yeah, I know that's going to be me too, right? So yeah, you can totally earn a paycheck. You can earn residual income by just simply sharing your experiences with Young Living. We call this a thank you check. It's from the company, and it's determined by how passionate you are about the products and how much you consistently share. And that's it. So these are 3 options you have. No pressure to pick whichever option fits you and your lifestyle. All right, so thank you all for being here. I would love to hear any questions you have. Do we have any questions?
Reagan, when you were talking about using the oils in cooking, and then unless you're looking for the acid component, what did you kind of mean by that? That was intriguing to me.
Okay, here, let me stop the screen sharing here, and I will explain that. Okay, so when we're looking at just using the oils for the flavor, like in place of your zest. You're just looking to get the flavor of that. When you're using the zest of a fruit, you're just looking to get the flavor of that fruit in your dish. So the
Right.
oil is a perfect substitute for that, since that's actually where we get our oils in the first place.
Right.
But sometimes you need the actual citric acid to be an activating agent, especially if you're using baking soda. Here's an example. I was making pancakes one time, and my recipe calls for a tablespoon of lemon juice. Well, instead of using a tablespoon of lemon juice, I thought I'm going to be smart and use a drop of lemon oil. Now, my pancakes tasted great, but they didn't fluff like they normally do, because that citric acid in the lemon juice is what actually activates the baking soda to allow it to, give off the gases and fizz and bubble and expand. So it's the same difference as putting vinegar and baking soda in for your volcanoes at schools, or for your kids. That gas and bubbles and stuff, that's what makes your dishes, like your breads and your pancakes, your cakes and things like that, fluffy. So if you're needing that in your recipe, if you're needing that activation ingredient, the essential oils are not going to be a good substitute for that. You still need to add the acid component, but you can always add the oil on top of it to get a little bit more of that flavor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really thought about it that way before, but now I'm just sitting here like pondering, like, wow. This is really, like when you said science experiment, it really is, Science,
yeah,
a lot of science.
It really is. I'm a chemistry person myself, and I mentioned one time to my husband and brother-in-law that I never had a chemistry set when I was growing up, and I always wanted one. And my brother-in-law mentioned very sarcastically, he said, "Well, didn't you cook when you were growing up? Didn't you have a kitchen?"
Wow.
I kind of smacked him for that, but he's totally right. We're baking in the kitchen and cooking. It's a total science experiment every time, which is probably why I like it so much.
I'm really excited to try some of those spices. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely be looking in there to spice up the flavor. If I can just remember flavor and not any major, like you were talking about with your story, components that actually have to cause, something to rise or, something like that.
And if you do need that component, the activation component, you can always add a little bit of vinegar instead of your citric acid if you just don't have any on hand, like apple cider vinegar. That's all that can totally be used as an activator for like baking soda and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to keep that in mind. Thank you. Like I'm really thinking about all right, okay. I think I'm gonna be good now. My sister's the chef in the family. I'm not.
She's a good one.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm gonna have to really step it up, step up my game with the vitality oils. I've been doing well so far though, but it is nice to have ideas.
Yes, it is absolutely nice to have those ideas.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for sharing the savory and the sweet, not just because I have a lot of sweet dish ideas, but when you were talking about the turkey, and kind of working with the flavoring of that meat, that is something that, it's like, wow, what do you do with that? Gravy, that's not sweet, dressing. Those are things that are really cool to experiment with, I think.
Oh, yeah. And your thyme oils, your rosemary, tarragon, those are some of my favorites. Just dry spices to add to, sage is actually another one of my favorites, just to add to meat, with the dry spice. But using the oils, you're not just adding the flavor, but you're also adding that helpful benefit generally, as long as you add it at the end. Adding it at the beginning, you're not going to get the healthful benefits, but you are going to get the flavor. So, you know, which, I mean, Thanksgiving is mostly about the flavor anyway, right? So
Yeah.
we can
Yep.
do the healthful benefits after the meal with the digize for everybody, all right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to stop the recording if we don't have any more questions. We good? All right.